11th, 12th. Good morning. Alvin, Buddy Walker, and I will be talking today about people and things we remember at Winter Beach for a long, long time. So to begin with, Buddy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, his name is Alvin, but I'm referring to him as Buddy because that's what I've always known him as all these years. And today, for your sake, remember this is July the 12th, 2023. Buddy, the name Alvin, where did it come from?
From my father.
I would his name was Clinton.
It was Alvin Clinton Walker Jr. He was a senior. I'm a junior.
Okay. Now, he went into service. Wasn't he in the Coast Guard?
Yeah.
I thought so. Now, if I remember correctly, he married Eunice Hamilton.
Eunice Irene.
Hamilton.
Right.
Approximately, what was that?
When?
Yeah.
Lord, yeah, I'm not good at numbers or dates. I'm terrible at them.
Okay. It would have been probably after 1933, probably about 1937, I would imagine. Because Phyllis, the oldest one of your family,
Yeah.
yeah, probably be 1937, because she's about 4 years younger than I am. Okay. Tell me about the family situation with Eunice and Clinton. How many children they have? Where'd you live?
Well, we lived in Winter Beach most of our life. And,
What do you mean most of your life? I thought you lived there all your life.
well, we might have lived on the outskirts of Grand Harbor at one time.
Okay, okay. That's South Winter Beach, okay.
Yeah. And my dad, he used to call my mother Sweet Pea. And us kids thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And that was Phyllis, Mac, me, Niner, and Dean. And Stanley probably couldn't remember because he's probably 10 years difference, I think, between him and Niner Ruth.
Wasn't there a character in, was it Popeye, Sweet Pea?
Yeah.
Have I been any connection there?
Not that I know of.
Now,
But he used to write her letters, and we got a hold of some of the letters, and they all started out, "Dear Sweet Pea."
that's interesting to know. Now, what did your father do?
He, multiple jobs.
Okay.
He used to work for Leslie Goodrich. He run citrus from here to Clermont, Florida, and back.
Okay.
And then he run trucks for other different people too at different times. And he was gone most of the time.
That probably made for a happy marriage.
Yeah, it probably did. Oh yeah. Well, see, my daddy loved to fish. So when he got home, he would come looking for me and Mac after school to haul the croaker sack for him, because he would throw the net from mullet. And we'd walk along that shore and we would bog up our knees. Could not get out of that mud hardly. And so we would run and hide from him when he'd come. And then Dean come along. Well, Dean, he was into fishing. He loved it. He could get out there and he could throw a cast net better than my father.
And that's not an easy feat, I'll tell you.
No, I know.
That's not easy.
I tried it 2 or 3 times.
I never did.
And that was it.
You have to know, because to catch mullet, you must use I understand you must predominantly use a cast net.
Right. Yeah, they don't bite on hooks and bait.
That's what I understand. But some people won't know what we know about a cast net.
I know.
Tell us what a cast. Describe it. Pretend I don't know what a cast net is. Tell me about it.
It's just a net with leads on the bottom, a rope at the top, and they get out there and throw it in a big old circle.
And it goes down, engulfs the fish.
Right.
They pull them up. The
Right.
bottom band closed because of the lid on the bottom.
Right. But there was another way too. The gill netters
Yes.
would go in the river fishing. And Donnie Ray and Bonnie Fay and Junior Woods, they went out there all the time. And I went with Connie Ray one night and the mosquitoes bit us. He had a little smudge spot in the middle of the boat. Burnt these rags. He'd run the net out and he'd get on the oars and bang them. He thought he was running the fish into the net.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong here. It's a long net,
You know.
somebody on one end, somebody there, and you walk and pull the net behind you.
No, he'd run the net right out of the back of the boat. He had it stacked in there.
But what do you call it? Where you have that long net, one person on one side and one the other, and you walk and pull it together.
That's singing.
Same. That's dangerous. Because
Yeah.
one time I was doing that with Uncle Homer, and of all things, we caught a stingray in there.
Yeah.
So there are some dangers if you're singing. You know.
Yeah.
Now your mama, she never did work outside the home, did she? How could she?
Well,
She visits kids.
She did a little. She worked at Hogan's packing house doing the tomatoes.
Okay.
And I think she might have helped Miss Brotherman at the post office a day or two once in a while.
That's true. She did.
And then she helped Mr. Sapp out. She sat on the polls, you know, for people to vote. And she wasn't a good housekeeper,
Well, nobody's perfect, buddy.
but she made up for it in cooking and laundry. She loved to do laundry. I don't know why.
That took much of her time right there. For
Yeah,
house
well, yeah, for 5 or 6 kids, right?
Yeah.
And she made her own lye soap.
Tell us about that.
Well, I don't know much about it other than they made it out of lye and oil that they cooked with and saved.
Bacon sap, bacon fat,
Yeah,
and it smells to high heaven, but it will clean you.
yeah, that lye I think is what did it.
Yes, they probably made their own potash
Yeah.
from ashes from the outdoor fires.
Yeah. She would boil our dungarees in what we call a smudge pot. You know what that is,
An
right?
old wash pot.
Old wash pot. She'd get them out and she'd bang them on the boards with the broom handle that had been cut off. And you got out there and rub them on the rub board.
And of course, this was before the days of washing machines, or when we could afford washing machines.
Right.
So you did it
Right.
on a scrub board.
And then we had this neighbor that lived up the street from us, the Stricklands,
Yes.
and they called him Tater Pie. And I asked my mother, I says, why did they call him Tater Pie? She says, well, I guess he liked tater pie.
The story that I heard on that, he'd gone to a restaurant one day, and they said, would you like dessert? What do you have? We have pie. Well, bring me some tater pie. And he said, well, we have the kind. He said, no, there's only one kind of pie, that's tater pie. From that time on, they called him Tater Pie.
That could be.
Yeah, very likely, yeah.
And my mother, she made a chocolate cake that everybody really liked. It was plain and simple.
Tell me about it.
Well, the icing was just confectionery sugar, butter, and old coffee that was left over when she warmed it.
Huh.
Poured in there. The coffee's supposed to make the cocoa better or something for some reason.
Probably 3 or 4 layer cake.
Just a flat sheet
Oh, flat cake, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else were some of your neighbors?
And then she looked out the road one day and coming up the road was Harry Hurst, clapping his hands and singing, I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away.
And she made the comment, here comes that crazy Harry.
She said crazy, but Brenda wouldn't put it in there. She took it out.
Because I was a free thinker.
And but my mother really loved that Harry Hurst. She did.
She was in my Sunday school class at one time. And she met the Lord in my Sunday school class. And one year, Mom and I were going up to North Florida to see my uncle in Monticello. Your sister lived in Madison. And so she and your younger brother went with us up to Madison. When we stopped to eat a meal, she opened her pocketbook and took a little Bible out, and she says, "Thanks to you, I'm a believer," and showed me the little Bible that she had picked up in our Sunday school class. She was a good woman.
Yeah. She never learned to drive though.
Why should she?
Well, that's true. But I don't know why. Most people want to drive.
There's some people though that do not because nervous conditions, because they
Yeah.
are fearful on the road. Even some young people today, they don't want to drive. I know of two off the bat that they don't want to drive, and they really need to, but they said no, I'm not comfortable doing it.
Yeah. And then we had a neighbor, Estelle
Estelle,
Walker Coker Collins. And she was famous for her butterscotch and coconut cakes. And they were all thin layers, like six layers to the cake. And they would get in her house, and Miss Kearns would help her. And they would make 4 or 5. And they would have stuff scattered everywhere. But they were the best cakes. The coconut was my favorite. Most people like butterscotch. They'd make 4 or 5 butterscotch and a couple of coconut.
now you're sitting up for another neuron here. You've been Miss Kearns.
Yeah, Miss Kearns helped her.
Miss Kearns was very instrumental in I think the finances of the little holiness church down
Yeah.
the road from your house. And Miss Estelle also was in that church. She would get very religious, but she would want to go out on Saturday night sometime with Mary Baker and make the rounds. And she came to our church one day, and she was used to speaking in tongues. And on the other church, she started speaking in tongues. Well, in the Baptist church, it was kind of a novelty to some people, but nobody said anything, but she went in speaking in tongues. She's a good person. She had 2 sons, CL and Leslie,
Yeah,
both of whom went into service.
right. But I guess I was so young I didn't remember them. that
Or
much.
you wouldn't, because you would have been very young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I know later on they took in Christine,
Okay.
her sisters, 2 boys, Samuel and Alex, for a
Okay.
long time. And my grandfather, JJP,
Yeah.
you remember him?
How well I remember him.
He was a commissioner for years.
Yep.
Uh,
And his second wife was a very special lady in my book.
yeah. Well, he loved a good cigar and a nip.
Yes. He liked to take his little nips when he come to town for a meeting. That's
Yeah.
true.
And I said, I like to take a nip once in a while too.
We don't go advertising the fact.
Well,
But now he had a little store there,
yeah,
and his wife, she ran that store.
yeah. Yeah, she run the store while he would go to Tallahassee sometimes.
Yeah, or even when because my kid's in real estate also, but she'd run the store. They got married probably early 1940s. She had come down from Perry, Florida, to visit her son and daughter-in-law, who lived in Winter Beach,
Yeah,
and she brought her nephew Charlie Paul Russell with her.
yeah,
And so, I guess she began to date Mr. Hamilton. Next thing you know, they got married,
yeah,
and they were married for many, many years.
yeah,
Now, she was very good, I know, to Nana, not Nana, but Phyllis. She used to take Phyllis to church with her all the time.
yeah. And she'd go around and pick up quite a few of them and take them to church. And my grandfather, he was all the time buying off the wall cars. He had a little Hudson maroon, and then he had a Dodge push button
Yeah.
that my grandmother loved. But you'd see him coming from town, traffic would be backed up for miles, and they'd say, "There comes JJP."
Yep.
He would back, but the old highway was
Yep.
2 lane. Old Dixie is what it was then, and people would laugh about him.
Yep. He was very, very influential in our community and in the county.
Oh yeah. And then I remember the people that made biscuits. You remember all of them in Winter Beach?
Who?
The people that made biscuits in Winter Beach, they call them cat heads.
Yeah.
Well, there was Aunt Edna
Edna Armstrong.
Hamilton, and she made, hers was really soft. Hers was almost like a roll. And then my mother's was
A little firmer.
crunchy top and bottom. But both of them were good in their own way.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to make a biscuit?
No. Yeah, I did, but I gave that up as a lost cause.
You buy them out of the bag.
No, I don't use any biscuit.
Oh,
But if I were going to use mine, I probably would try it again nowadays.
yeah. Oh, and then the Pentecostal church on the back.
Yep.
We called it the back road, but because it was only like 2 blocks from my house, we'd go out there and stand in the road, and we'd listen to Cornelius Stevens, Wesley Carnes, Miss Estelle, and I don't know who all else.
Ms. Walker, Gussie Walker.
But they'd stand up on that stage, clap their hands, stomp their feet,
And sing to the top of their voice.
sing to the top of their voice. And one of their favorite songs was Prayer Bells of Heaven.
Yep.
But they could drum a beat with their feet and hands as good as most people could with their
Oh yeah.
musical instruments.
Yep.
You like that kind of
Yeah.
music, didn't you? Are we doing all right here, Harry?
Fine.
Oh, and she was married to Gertha Collins.
Oh yeah.
And
He was from South Carolina.
right, and he'd come here to grow watermelons and stuff. And he was really good at it. And I know the only one, he raised like 3 of them, cannonballs and gongos and Charleston Gray. Mostly Charleston Gray for some reason or other, I don't know why. And he would have us boys help him in the fields. Pick them,
'Cause
cut it, yeah.
they had to put them on this big truck.
They put it-
And
well,
they
they
go
put
sell
them-
them. There's a lot of lifting.
They put him on his little black Dodge first. And they had a shed up there by Broward McCullers. By the ambulance service
Yeah,
station.
I know Broward. Mhm.
Remember where that's right down?
Of course I do.
Right, it was
Wilbur
there.
and Tinker's father.
Yeah. And if he had some left over, most of the time he did, he would take us to Gifford. And he'd want us to sit on the trucks and holler, watermelons, watermelons. And they'd come out. You wouldn't believe it,
Oh, yeah.
they'd come out. And he would ask them, do you want me to slice it or want to plug it? Have you ever seen anybody plug a
Yeah,
watermelon?
yeah.
Yeah. And he'd give them a taste
Oh, that way you
of
can
it.
test it for sweetness.
Yeah. And he only probably charged a quarter.
I was gonna
50
say about a
cents
quarter,
at
yeah.
most. And you know what a watermelon is today?
Well, I know.
Oh, and I'll tell you about my grandma Hamilton, Willa Mae
Willie Mae.
Sheffield.
Willie Mae Sheffield Hamilton.
Right. Of course, she used to, we used to say, Granny, Granny, Granny. She said, well, don't call me Granny. Grannies deliver babies, and I don't deliver babies. She was funny about that. I don't know why, but she was. But she was like a grandma to me, a grandmother. you
She was
know.
a very good person.
Right.
Very
We
good
didn't
person.
know the difference, you know. Yeah, and Aunt Lydia that lived out on, I guess what road out there, 58.
58.
You know, she would call Saturday to get her grocery order in. Grandma would pack her whatever she ordered. We would ride out there and deliver the order. Come back to the house. She'd walk upstairs and she'd look behind all the doors, under the bed.
A lot of people in those days, they would check their house before going to bed. Now, you know, she also had a part-time job doing something else too.
Yeah, well, she was, before she moved here, I think she run like a restaurant or motel because she was a good cook.
Yeah, that's probably true. But she also would sell clothing. She worked for some big company, and she'd go around showing samples. I know Ms. Williams bought a number of clothes from her, very tastefully done. But she also did that because she's very active in the community.
Yeah. Oh. We would go up there for Christmas dinner once in a while, not every year, you know, but she would have the whole family, Uncle Gene and Uncle the Ralph family and Aunt Edna and all them would come, you know. And she could put on a spread. She would take a ham and you know, you've seen these in these cookbooks where they dice and put the slices and put the cloves in it. She did that. But she always had a sweet potato in her kitchen underneath the table. I mean, underneath the cloth. And we don't know what it was, why she did it, but you could go in there and look. It was always in there, a baked sweet potato.
Huh. I have no idea.
I don't either, but she did it. And that's about it for
Now,
this time.
who lived behind Mr. Gertha Collins? Aunt used to live there, and Ella Murray. And right next door to that was the Roddenberrys. And Ella was still living in that house when you were growing up, wasn't she? Ella Murray.
I don't know.
Yes, she would have been. She was a farmer. She had a farm right down the road from there. She lived there. The next door was the Roddenberrys family. And next to them was her little farm there, but she's a very good farmer.
Oh, here's another little thing about my grandmother. You know, later in life she had a stroke. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And the preacher, I guess it was Miller. I think that was the
Yeah,
one.
Arvil Miller.
He come up to see her. Well, my grandfather had all these ties. He must have had 200 or 300, and she would just put them on a coat hanger, you know, and hang them on the wall or hang them on the door, and they was laying every place there. And he said to her, he says, "I sure would like them ties. I'd make a rug with them." And she looked at him and she says, "You want Grandpa Hamilton to have a stroke too?"
Now, what he meant by that, in his garage there, behind the pastorium, there's a big weaving machine.
Yeah,
He'd take rags and he would weave rugs out of there.
yeah.
Yeah. Because his wife was a very pretty woman, Virginia Miller. They had one child, Russell. You think that Russell was a holy child. She didn't want that child to get any germs on him or get sick. She rarely went to church because she didn't want to be exposed to people. But as a younger woman, she had come to our community and taught a course one summer.
Huh.
Later on, she married Arvil, and they came here and lived there. They were good people. He was the one that caused me to go to Stetson because he'd gone to Stetson. He said, "That's where you must go."
Well, if anybody is listening to this broadcast and they want to add anything to it, let us know and we'll add it to
Call
later
and give
next
us
time.
information, or if you have information that you think is pertinent to us, or you'd like to show up with us and be considered to do an interview with us, call, and we'll be glad to work with you.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful summer. Remember, yes, it's hot. I remind you, it is July, it is summer, and for the last many, many years, I know it's always been hot in July. So happy July.